What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. At this point, I think the Open Great League meta is starting to settle down just a little bit, but I keep on seeing teams weak to Shadow Steelix of all things. This Pokemon is not my favorite Pokemon to use in the Go Battle League, but it has a very unique niche in the meta. It's a ground and steel type with electric type fast move pressure. It has a lot of debuff potential as well as Psychic Fangs and Breaking Swipe. So while it's not the most honorable Pokemon in the game, I think at this point in the meta, it's a fantastic Pokemon to use. Let's get into the battles and see what this Pokemon can do. Alright, getting right on into the first game of the day, Shadow Steelix into a Dusclops. Very neutral lead matchup here. I do wish I had Crunch for this specific matchup, but I also like having the utility of both Breaking Swipe and Psychic Fangs for other matchups in the meta. So, I mean, it's kind of like you can go with any moves that you want to here. I think Psychic Fangs is probably the one move you want to guarantee you have on this Pokemon. Still puts in quite a bit of work with Fast Move Pressure here against the Dusclops, but obviously Crunch against the Dark types, or the Ghost types rather, would be fantastic. Shadow Punch number 1 coming through, Shadow Punch number 2 being thrown very shortly after. I think we can survive these pretty easily, but the third Shadow Punch might be enough to start threatening a shield. They say swap a Swampert here, so obviously they don't want to stay in that matchup too long. They think either Dusclops is good in the backline, or maybe they want to try to bait out our Golisopod, which I mean, at this point, they've done a pretty good job at doing that. In comes an Aqua Jet. Our opponent opts for the no shield. They're in Fury Cutter downrange, but they do have back-to-back sludges, which could be a little bit awkward. I know while we can take the first one here, the second one would come close to knocking us out. I think, though, shielding this farming down will give us a lot more play, even into that Dusclops with our Golisopod at this point, because an Aqua Jet would come close to knocking them out if they do bring that Pokemon back in. But no, they come in with their final Pokemon. It's their own Golisopod. So very similar teams from both me and my opponent here. We both have a ground type. They had a Swampert, I had a Shadow Steelix, and then the Dusclops plus Golisopod duo that I think we all know at this point is one of the best duos in the meta. We see an X-Scissor once again being reached. We got both shields here with our Golisopod. We swap into our Shadow Steelix, not giving that farm down over to our opponent. We have a lot of energy. I know they might try to swap into that Dusclops here, and so I want to get an instant debuff if I can. Breaking Swipe coming through, our opponent could go for a Shadow Punch here in just a second if they want to knock us out. But I also know at this point, we know their full team. We know we should be able to hex this all the way down. And I think 2 Shadow Punches at this point will be all it takes to knock out the Golisopod. They will get a Shadow Punch off against our own Dusclops here, which I don't love, but I think we're still in a good spot where this doesn't do enough damage to put us into Aqua Jet range. So as long as they don't reach a second one, we should be fine. And yeah, we farm down. Only 1 Shadow Punch has been reached by our opponent. We need 2 to knock them out on our Dusclops into the Golisopod, but we should still be able to win this game. In comes the Shadow Punch. Our opponent does have a move loaded just about now. Aqua Jet will come through, but Dusclops is extremely bulky. I think we're fine at this point. We can survive this attack, go for the Shadow Punch, and knock out their Golisopod. In comes the Shadow Punch here. No shields remaining for our opponent. This should get the KO. Even if it doesn't, we have a lot more fast food pressure in the bank. But no, it does knock out. GG there to our opponent. Next game, Wigglytuff in the lead. Very good lead matchup here. Let's see if they stay in or if they swap out. I've seen a lot of like Wigglytuff double Mud Slap teams, but no, they're staying in this matchup, which is insane to me. These charms are resisted by our Shadow Steelix. We can ramp up our damage by going for Thunder Fang as well as Psychic Fangs. Our opponent staying in makes it seem like they must be pretty weak to this Pokemon in the backline. I'm tempted to shield, but I also know at this point we can survive and we can leverage this advantage, hopefully, into the backline. I know that our Steelix is going to be chipped down a little bit more than I'd like to, saying it's battling a Fairy-type Pokemon, but we're still in a good spot. We have 2 moves ready to go. Psychic Fang should knock out the Wigglytuff, and we'll have another move for whatever is in the back. In comes the Golisopod into the Marowak. I didn't want to give him a farm down against us here, so I swapped out instantly. I knew at this point, once Wigglytuff's gone, that is likely their Golisopod answer. In comes the Aqua Jet. Our opponent, no shields. They get farmed down. What was that? I don't even know. GG to our opponent. They had no play, I guess, into our Steelix once their Marowak went down. Next matchup, Moltres in the lead, a Cradily Say swap. I'm not super quick on the counter swap here, though. I didn't know exactly who to bring in at first. I think both of my backline Pokemon can handle this, but I mean, with how slow I was on the swap here, I'm going to just take a move, swap into our Dusclops, and at this point, I know that while our Shadow Steelix is our best matchup into that Moltres, even Golisopod has a lot of play into it, saying while they are a flying type, the dark typing makes it so my bug type damage is neutral into that Pokemon. It's not that bad of a spot to be in. In comes our next Ice Punch here. Our attack is going to be at -1, so it's not going to quite two-shot them, especially because this Pokemon is so bulky. Well, both sides are so bulky here. It makes it so these Ice Punches, while super effective, look like they do almost nothing. But still, it's going to trip them down into the red. Our opponent actually takes advantage of the desync switch clocks. They come back in with their Moltres. I can reach an Ice Punch. It is still at -1, but it will be some nice chip, and it will make it so I can swap back out to our Shadow Steelix to try to farm down the rest of this Pokemon. In comes our Breaking Swipe. Our opponent does not go for the shield almost certainly here. They know at this point that their Moltres is pretty useless into this Pokemon, although a Brave Bird would basically knock us out from this range. I don't want to let that happen. I'm going to shield this up. Our opponent does full send the Brave Bird. We farm them all the way down, and now we'll see what ends up coming in. It could be the Cradily, could be whatever their final Pokemon might be. Our opponent thinking for a second, they do have energy on Cradily. They do bring that back in, actually. I'm going to shield this up, because if this is what they bring into us here, there is almost certainly something in the backline that does not want to be permanently debuffed, and no, it is not something that wants to take the Thunderfang damage or these Psychic Fangs. It is a Tentacruel. I think that was also on Poison Sting, meaning they do have a bit more charge move pressure, but their fast move damage is almost non-existent. Psychic Fangs number 2 coming through. They no-shielded that first move. They shielded the second here, and now this fast move pressure is just shredding through the HP. They wait. They make sure that they do not get caught on. But I mean, at this point, we still reach another move with our Dusclops. We get the final shield of this move, and these Hexes at this point kind of looking like Astonishes, doing some real fast move pressure. And this is where it does get a little bit tricky, right? We know that while they are debuffed, I don't have a lot more fast move pressure on our Golisopod. They can, in fact, reach a move here if they want to, but I also know at this point, the Cradily in the backline is pretty low. I can Fury Cutter that down. Even if they make a catch, I still have my Shadow Steel because we survived that Sludge Wave. We farm down the Cradily. We can go for the move now against the Tentacruel and take the win here. GG to our opponent. Next game, Shadow Steelix into Shadow Scizor. Now this matchup here does look pretty good for our Shadow Steelix because we resist the Bullet Punch damage and because our Thunderfang is neutral into them. With that said, our charging pressure is not the greatest into this Pokemon. I know at this point that this Trailblaze is almost certainly going to be thrown, ramping up their attack stat. They are doing quote-unquote resisted damage to us here with these bullet punches, but honestly, we're below half HP already just with fast move pressure. That's how strong this Pokemon can be. We double shield our Shadow Steelix, maybe a misplay here, but I feel like if they're staying in that lead matchup, Steelix has more play in the backline, so we go for the shield, we go for the Breaking Swipe as well, potentially a misplay. We do draw a shield with that, which is nice, but in comes our Psychic Fangs now. I probably should have just gone straight Psychic Fangs in this matchup, because honestly, I don't have a great way to finish off this Lapras, so the more it's debuffed, the better it would be for me. We save a Psychic Fangs here. We come in with our Golisopod, hoping that they're on Ice Beam as well as Sparkling Aria. Our opponent throwing a move. Unfortunately, it is a Skull Bash that does a massive amount of damage to us here, which might put us into Psywave downrange before a second X-Scissor could be reached. In comes the move. We do draw the shield, I guess, from this Lapras. Can we reach another attack? Just barely. No, we cannot. If we could have reached that move there, this would be a much better spot to be in. Now this Lapras has so much energy. Our Shadow Steelix, while it does have a move loaded in the backline, is going to have a lot of work to do. In comes the first charge move from the Lapras here. Shadow Steelix is going to want to avoid all of the Sparkling Arias that it can. I try to go for the combo play. It doesn't quite work out. Our opponent swaps out here, and now they're at another move. I was hoping I could get them down in one Thunderfang, but a 1 HP survive, meaning all of my energy on our Shadow Steelix goes down the drain. What is in the back here for our opponent? It is a Mandibuzz. We actually could have had play there if all of our energy didn't go down on our Steelix, but GG to our opponent. Very well played. Next matchup, Shadow Quagsire. All right, very terrible lead scenario to be in, but we have two Pokemon that can deal with this in the back. In comes our Golisopod against the Shadow Quagsire. I know at this point they're staying in. Likely they want to get a shield from us with a Stone Edge or potential an Aqua Tail bait if they want to do that as well. In comes the charge move. Likely going to be a bait here, but I don't want to get one shot, so I will shield just to respect whatever they might throw. Aqua Tail gets our shield. In comes the Galarian Moltres. And honestly, this is not the worst spot to be in at this point. Aqua Jet is going to be doing a lot of damage to them. These Fury Cutters as well, shredding through the HP of this Galarian Moltres. In comes the Ancient Power. I was going to say Fly. No, Ancient Power is the move they're running. Kind of an interesting idea from our opponent. I feel like they would likely be on Fly as their other move. Then I honestly don't know. Maybe they forgot to TM. But we can go for the full Fury Cutter down after getting that move landed against them, which means now we have a lot of energy for whatever they might bring in. It's actually going to be the Quagsire that comes back in here, but I am kind of worried. They're very willing to give up switch advantage in this game. That might mean their final Pokemon, whatever it is also pretty good into our Shadow Steelix. I'm hoping that's not the case, but honestly, at this point, it probably is. They knock us out there with the Quagsire. In comes the final Pokemon. It's a Talonflame. And the thing is here, this is not the best matchup for Shadow Steelix, but as far as Steelix counters go, we actually have some play here. We go for the Shadow Punch, we get a decent amount of damage into them. These Thunderfangs as well, shredding through the HP of this Talonflame. I'm hoping for double flying moveset, but they are on Flame Charge, meaning they have that super effective move that also ramp up their attack stat there. In comes the Psychic Fangs into our opponent, likely drawing the shield. They have to shield something, but by getting that shield from our opponent, we can now go for a full Hex down here. And even if they have Brave Bird, we should survive that, but it's probably just a fly. We survive, farm them down, or if that Quagsire comes in, we can go for another Shadow Punch against them before another move will be reached by this Pokemon. Aqua Tail would have taken 5 Mud Shots. They could only get 3 in there. Shadow Punch knocks out the Quagsire, and we should be able to either Hex down or Shadow Punch this Talonflame. We actually get the farm down. GG to our opponent. Very close match. All right, next game, not a great lead matchup. It's going to be the Ufisk, a bit of a core breaker actually for our team. I safe swap our Dusclops, a play I don't normally like to make. Normally, my Golisopod is my safe swap on this team, but because I just need to get them out of there, I go for my hard counter. I go for the Ice Punch into this Pokemon, and it looks like there's a chance we might be able to get a shield advantage from this Moltres if they want to keep switch. I'm going to no-shield the fly. I know I survived this attack here, and an Ice Punch is going to come very close to knocking them out if they do end up letting it go. In comes the Ice Punch. I'm going to undercharge just in case a no-shield does happen, because I don't think it quite knocks out either way, but they still play it safe. They shield the move up, and now I'm going to get a lot of farm on our Shadow Steelix. Raybird could be thrown into us, which would chip us down to about half of our HP, but I mean, the thing is, Steelix is kind of useless this game anyway. I'm going to stack it here, try to get an energy lead on our Golisopod, hoping it's a core breaker for our opponent's team, but in the back is a Shadow Pidgeot. This is about the most RPS game I could have faced. Unfortunately, GG to our opponent. Not much we really could have done in that game. This is also a pretty bad lead matchup here. It's going to be the Magcargo. I once again have to swap into, I guess, what I'd consider my hard answer, but honestly, is this even a hard counter to a Rock-type Pokemon? I'm not quite sure it is. Incinerates are chipping us down quite a bit. They do have access to Rock Tomb here, which will debuff my attack stat. I would expect them to swap the second they debuff our attack here, which is going to make life very difficult. They do swap into an Annihilate non-Shadow, which means at this point the counters aren't doing that much damage to us here. We might even survive a Rage Fist, which could be nice, but this is still looking pretty bad. They have two good answers to our Steelix. I'm hoping whatever their final Pokemon is, we at least have a little bit of play into them. In comes the Rage Fist. Our opponent does not quite knock us out here. I can swap now to our Dusclops. I don't want to give them any extra energy, because if I swap instantly, I can outpace to this Shadow Punch, maybe get a shield, maybe get a knockout against this Pokemon. We do actually draw the shield. Our opponent throws instantly with a Rage Fist. I know at this point I can shield this attack up. It's a +1 Ghost-type move. I don't want to take it if I can help it. And the final Pokemon revealed as a Serperior. All right, so I guess maybe there's a little bit of play. Serperior into Dusclops is not the worst matchup for us to be in, but I think the thing that's going to really cost us this game is the fact that we're going to take a full-on Frenzy Plant here, and that Magcargo is still very healthy in the backline. Frenzy Plant puts us down into the yellow, nearly into the red. I'm overfarming as much energy as I can right now. In comes the Ice Punch, and I think I need to try to make a catch here if I want any chance to win. We instantly swap to Shadow Steelix. We get a catch on what is either a Leaf Tornado or an Aerial Ace. If this is just an Ace, we're in such a good spot. Yeah, we do catch the Flying type move. In comes the Magcargo, and the thing is, at this point, while I'm not doing that much damage in the raw matchup here with these Thunder Fangs or the Psychic Fangs, I'm going to start chipping them down a little bit over time, at least enough here to potentially knock them out with a Shadow Punch from our Dusclops. They're in farm down range on that Serperior. I think I can still outpace the Annihilate as well to a move. They overheat us, so I don't think I'm going to get farmed down. I can actually reach a Shadow Punch after a single Hex comes through. This should knock out the Magcargo, and Dusclops is going to try its best for an endgame sweep. Our opponent thinking they come in with the Annihilate here. I'm at a Shadow Punch. They go for a catch attempt, but I know at this point there is no reason to fall for that. I can get to two moves now, go for one move into the Serperior, another move into the Annihilate, and this game somehow is going to be ours. Shadow Punch going to knock out the Annihilate here. Down goes the Ghost Fighting type Pokemon, somehow Dusclops sweeping the backline. Next game, Shadow Steelix into Shadow Annihilate, this time in the lead matchup. It's kind of a weird matchup, honestly. It's not the worst scenario for Shadow Steelix with Psychic Fangs, but it's not great head-to-head, so I'm going to swap out, but I do have play later on if I need it. Somehow, we must have lost a turn here, because that was a CMP the second I reached the Aqua Jet. We should have been able to throw just a little bit earlier there, so we did lose a Fury Cutter in this matchup, which is not ideal, but we still draw the shield from the Annihilate, and we clear their debuff, or their boost rather, to their attack stat, which is nice to see. Clodsire comes in to try to answer our Golisopod. In my opinion, not the best answer to this Pokemon unless they have Stone Edge. They do go for the instant throw. I know this is just a Sludge Bomb. If I can reach another Aqua Jet here, either I'll get their final shield or potentially I'll get the knockout against this Pokemon. Aqua Jet just barely reached before we end up getting farmed down. This should draw the shield. If I get switched though, we're also in a very good spot. They do end up shielding the attack. Dusclops going to come in now, try its best to take all the damage it can, and at this point, shields are down. I should be able to knock out that Annihilate with our Steelix if we need to, but this game is going to get just a little bit more awkward than I like. Earthquake is going to chip us down quite a bit. Ice Punch being thrown into the Clodsire. Is this enough damage? I'm going to hope it is. If not, they're close to another move here. Our opponent on 1 HP survives. They get a move. I think it's just a Sludge Bomb, but if this is an Earthquake, that is going to be so bad for us. Sludge Bomb being thrown. We do survive that very easily, and the final Pokemon revealed as a Dugong. a Pokemon that I do think we have play into at this point. They're going to throw a move before swapping out. I'm thinking it is almost certainly an Icy Wind. I have to call that that's what it's going to be. We do call the move properly here. In comes the Shadow Annihilate, and this is going to be a very dicey matchup. Psychic Fangs coming through. It's going to cost our opponent a lot of HP. I need to reach the second one here before getting farmed down. We actually do. Our opponent realizes that they are forced into throwing energy, but by throwing this energy, I see another win condition. No shield this move, Hex down with our Dusclops, and spam out as many of these moves against that Dugong as we can. The tricky thing is our HP is getting very low at this point. Dugong might be able to survive 2 Shadow Punches. It might not be able to survive 3, though, but can we survive long enough to reach that attack? I don't know. In comes the next Shadow Punch here. Our opponent is at the Icy Wind. Dugong can win the CMP, so maybe they're going to go for that to debuff my next attack because they know at this point they cannot survive it. They do go for CMP, and they win it against our Dusclops. Is this enough damage? Do we have enough HP to win this game? If it's not, Shadow Punch being thrown, our opponent has no shields remaining, but these are 2 bulky Pokemon. I mean, debuff Dusclops, not quite enough to knock them out, but we farm them down, just barely taking the win. GG to our opponent, as close a game as it gets. Next matchup, Dedenne in the lead. This is probably the best lead scenario I could possibly see. Our opponent, though, is swapping to a bit of an awkward Pokemon. They come in with the Dusclops. I go for a Psychic Fangs, and the thing is, I don't have a good counter swap to this, but I know I want to keep our Steelix around for the backline. So while it's kind of counterintuitive here, I'm going to swap our Bug into the Ghost type. After getting this Psychic Fangs debuff, I can actually do quite a bit of fast move pressure to them here. It doubles the fast move output of Fury Cutter into this Dusclops, which means that while we are doing quote-unquote resisted damage, it will add up quite a bit over time. Aqua Jet will be thrown here in just a second. Our opponent can shield this if they want to. I'm not that concerned about switching this game, though, because at this point, our Dusclops is decent into Dedenne. They end up letting it go, which I think is fine by me. I might get to another Aqua Jet, and if I can against this Dedenne, it's going to do a lot more damage than, honestly, any other move I have across the board on my team. So while our Golisopod is not the best matchup here, it actually draws a shield from this Pokemon, which is honestly kind of weird. Why would they shield this when they know I have a Shadow Steelix in the backline? Unless they are just cripplingly weak to this Pokemon here. I'm going to go for the no shield on this attack. I know no matter what they have, it's only going to be resisted, and they go for a Parabolic Charge. That reeks of desperation to me right now. I have no idea what might be in the back, but I think keeping our Shadow Steelix around is going to be the play. We neutralize their defense boost with our own Psychic Fangs defense drop. These Thunder Fangs, while they are resisted, are adding up quite a bit against our opponent. And I mean, at this point, this is a play rough. I'm going to shield this move because I know for a fact they are frightened of our Shadow Steelix. No reason at this point to let it take that much damage. I know the Psychic Fangs is not quite enough to knock them out. It is on a CMP with a play rough, but this is going to guarantee that I land this Psychic Fangs into this Pokemon, which should either knock them out or come close enough to it that our Dusclops only needs a couple of hexes to finish off the job. In comes the Psychic Fangs. We do end up nearly knocking them out. They can swap out, though, into the Araquanid, and now we can see exactly why they were so scared. We have so much Thunder Fang damage. We can permanently debuff them in this matchup here with our Psychic Fangs as well, and the second they see our Dusclops, I am almost certainly going to expect top left from our opponent. In comes our next Psychic Fangs. Down goes their defense stat here. In comes our Dusclops, and our opponent realizes that was just such a bad matchup to be in. Not much they could really do. Next game, Shadow Ampharos in the lead. Okay, this is weird, honestly. I have resisted fast move pressure. I am a ground type, so I resist their fast move pressure as well. But man, they might have Focus Blast or building up energy. I'm going to go for the Breaking Swipe. What is our opponent going to throw against us here? In comes a move, no debuff, and a Regidrago safe swap. I don't really know what to think about this right now. I know that we do have Ice Punch on our Dusclops, and our opponent at this point could go for either a Breaking Swipe or a Dragon Energy. They do full send the Dragon Energy here, which puts us down pretty low, but we should still be able to reach 2 Ice Punches before getting farmed down. Ice Punch number 1 being thrown before a Breaking Swipe debuff is even possible to be thrown into us. In comes the second Ice Punch. Our opponent is going to likely take this move if they don't want to end up using both shields already in the game. Ice Punch actually does draw the second shield. Very interesting play. Don't quite get to a third Ice Punch, which would have been nice if I could have got that attack off. Would have put them pretty low, but because Shadow Punch will be thrown, it's still going to trip them down quite a bit, at least into range where our Shadow Steelix should have play. We can come back in with our Steel-type Pokemon, resist any sort of move they're going to throw into us, but this is such an awkward spot to be in. At this point, our Golisopod is not going to want to face off into that loaded Ampharos in the backline, and I have no idea what you even pair in this meta with the Shadow Ampharos. What is their final Pokemon going to be? I guess we'll see here in just a second. Our opponent is thinking, and they end up coming in with a Jumpluff. This, you might on paper think, is a good matchup to be in, right? Jumpluff is going to be doing not that much fast move pressure, but the non-shadow likely does have Energy Ball, which at this point would be enough to knock us out. But there is also going to be that Ampharos to worry about in the backline. I don't think that I can really afford to go for a shield in this matchup because they almost have 2 moves loaded on that Electric-type Pokemon. And while this is just an Aerial Ace, and while I can survive the attack here, I am worried about fast move pressure at this point. Aerialist puts us down to about half HP, but at this point, it would likely still do less damage than any move this Pokemon is going to throw. Trailblaze comes through, gets our shield, and I'm going to try to knock this out before they get any more Volt Switches against us if I can. But I see a very awkward spot about to happen here. I have to throw all of my energy into this Ampharos to keep our shield around, but by doing that, now we're in a spot where Jumpluff can always outpace us to those two Aerial Aces in this matchup. What that means is Golisopod in this game, very little play to begin with, but even less now that we don't knock them out with that move. They have two Aerial Aces ready to go. GG to our opponent. That was an insane team, and they played that one very well. Next matchup is a Shadow Dragonite lead. Probably one of the best matchups that you can see as a Shadow Steelix, and honestly, our opponent's staying in. Music to my ears here. We go for the Breaking Swipe. They must be trying to survive the move and go for a superpower. I don't know why else they'd be staying in this matchup. They no-shield nearly one-shots them by going for that attempt at a survive on that Dragon-type move. I guess, honestly, it's kind of impressive that a Shadow Dragonite survived any super effective attack to begin with here, but we're still in a very good spot where we can go for a debuff against this Ferrothorn as a safe swap. We still have our Shadow Steelix around if we need it, and our Dusclops should be pretty good at absorbing energy as well as stripping them down after that defense drop with our Shadow Punches as well as our Hexes. In comes their second move here. I'm not that worried about this. Honestly, switch advantage is not important for us right now. We know that while there is a Dragonite in the backline, and Dragonite is not necessarily good for Golisopod, they are just within like one Fury Cutter range of being knocked out. They have a Dragon Claw loaded, which could be a little bit awkward. They shield a Shadow Punch, very interesting by our opponent. They must think that I'm kind of weak to this Pokemon with how I've played out this game, but honestly, I just don't have a hard counter, which is why I played it out the way I have. Our opponent comes in with a Gastrodon. All right, well, we have the hard counter for that as well. We can go for a full Fury Cutter down and X-Scissor against them, or they can top left, I guess, if they want to, and we're able to end off the day with a 5-0. Very cool stuff here, able to put a lot of work in. It seems like a lot of people just don't have play into this Pokemon. They're weak to it in the lead. They don't have a good hard answer to it in the backline. Maybe the teams have like one good response, but as long as you save this Pokemon, you use shields on it, you can just really power through teams and make it so you can debuff bad Pokemon in the backline that you might not want to see, and make it so this Shadow Steelix is such an oppressive force in the Go Bad League right now. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.